You don't get people on your side just by telling them, don't you want to be on the right side of history? Does the right side of history come with the full fridge? Does the right side of history come with the network of people whom I can be vulnerable and communicate with and grow with? I guess the way that like I look at it, so like I'm a black man. I have a lot of non-black friends, and a lot of them have been coming to me and expressing different, opinions and trying to understand this, that, blah, 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 blah. And some of them have even, there's a sense of hesitation in them even wanting to bring it up because they kind of feel bad of either being ignorant of this stuff or that they have to come and ask, like, okay, what direction should we go in? Now personally, I just enjoy. I'm a person who is just very curious into themselves. I'm just a very curious person about the world and about others. So, I'm somebody who's always liking to ask questions and uncover shit. So I just naturally appreciate when anybody comes to me for anything. Yeah. But there's also this sentiment amongst plenty of other people, black activists. They're like, no, it's not up to black people to teach you. You need to go and read this book. But no, don't read that book. You need to go and read this other book. Or no, don't watch that movie. Go watch this other thing. And I'm just like, y'all. People have we can talk all day about like, this resource is available and that resource is available, but guess what? People don't just operate off of what is most readily accessible or most
they're not going to go read the 6 books about political theory you tell them to go read. That's not going to happen.
No, they're going to go to the 6 people that they know that they feel vulnerable with, whom they know that they can talk about this stuff with to lead them in the direction. Because this is basically what this principle is just about word of mouth. You know what I'm saying? Which this is the way in which most people get on board with anything, is through word of mouth. And so I don't think that this issue will be any different. Yeah. Now, I get the argument of people, whether it's, feminists or LGBT people or trans people of being like, look, we're so frustrated already and we're already so exhausted from day-to-day bullshit. We don't also have time to talk, about these things and answer all these different questions. And so this is why you have people who publish books like White Fragility or, any of the other things that are coming out.
Yeah, this is a debate that I've had a little bit with one of my childhood friends who is from Little Rock. And she's a black woman, but, we've just always been really tight. We went to the hippie church together.
Yeah.
I don't know, we just hung out a lot, but, there's this term, emotional labor, which is... It's like the word problematic, not in the terms of the definition, but in terms of the use of the word in the context of people who are interested, I don't know, let's say loosely, in social justice or left politics.
Yeah.
In that there's 2 different ways that it's used. Like problematic formerly was referring to a difficult problem. The human genome or decoding the human genome is problematic, and now it's calling a trans person by a dead name pronoun is problematic. That it's, I guess it refers now to a societal problem or to a behavior which you do not like that someone else presents. In the same way, I would say that the terminology emotional labor, this is the debate that I had with my friend, it was originally conceived to refer to the prospect of working in a service job. Okay. Or a retail job or something or whatever, and then a customer comes up to you and is a piece of shit, and you just have to soak it up and smile and be chirpy. Just deal with it. Because that can take a little bit of an emotional toll on you if you're working a really bad job and someone's just horrible to you in a fashion that's not to scale and not appropriate for someone who works at a coffee shop. Someone will I don't know, I brought this up when we were talking before. Someone would scream at me at Starbucks about a cup of coffee, and I would be like, nice, it's a cup of coffee, thanks. I'd feel bad because you yelled at me for 15 minutes. The term emotional labor has also been applied to requesting, explanations of social theory, by people who are not as educated on the left, requesting them from, typically from black or people of color explaining them. And it's those are... there's a certain emotional toll that can take if you have to go on a really long discussion about that. Or I would say, especially if you're engaging with someone in bad faith. But
yes,
you're going to hear people use these words, and you're going to hear them mean both things. And sometimes they won't know that the other one is not using the same definition of the word. usually and regularly does blow up into a big dumb left book fight.
Like the racism thing we earlier.
Exactly, like the two definitions of racist. Like the rational thing for people who are like interested in serious debate is to, define their terms and clarify their positions, and if they don't agree, they can, hash out where they do and don't and move on. And if they're not going to do that, they're just going to sit there and yell at one another. Yeah, so like I was saying that, like me having worked as an employee at Starbucks, like, I brought up my definition of emotional labor, and my friend Ashanti, having explained things to irritating white people on the internet, brought up the other definition. I don't know, and I guess we clarified our definitions, and we said that we, didn't necessarily accept that, but then we just moved on. Like, that was, like, pretty much the end of it.
So yeah, like stuff like emotional labor and problematic, I'm not against the redefining of things, or redefinition of stuff, or like, using the same term and appropriating it for something else.
Yeah, being sensitive to the change of its use over time.
Yeah, absolutely. All this stuff is fluid, but I feel like sometimes the words that we use to describe these things, that it's easier or better to just use a completely different set of phrasing for that. So it's not to say that like, if somebody is repeatedly dead naming a trans person or using the wrong pronouns over and even after being told what they really want to hear, obviously another one that didn't really catch on as much was microaggressions.
Oh yeah.
Which even though a lot of people laughed at that and mocked it, to me that was actually like, to me that's more of my lane. That's more of like what I agree with, of what I acknowledge, that like I wouldn't call that behavior against a trans person problematic. I would say that you're committing microaggressions because you realize what you're doing. You're pushing them, but it's not the same level of bigotry as like calling them a tranny or calling them, a man in a woman's dress or something like that. A man in a dress. Stuff like that. But you're still trying to, it's basically like I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you.
Yeah.
Stuff that kids do to each other. Wait a minute. So explain again the different definitions of emotional labor. Because to me, I'm just thinking of like anything that exhausts you emotionally, whether it's on the job or a relationship or just waiting too long at a traffic light.
Yeah, it's not so much that the definitions are necessarily contrary. It's just that the one of them came first, and that there is the specific context in which it existed, which makes it relevant to differentiate the two words. Like one of them specifically referring to the workplace, and then the other phenomenon being like most of the places I've seen people being like, "Fuck you, pay me. I'm not going to explain that to you." Is when someone not like engaging with them in good faith. Like if they're like,
yes.
Well, I'm a sea lion, like if they're sea lioning or some shit like that. Like this doesn't apply. Like if when they're really skirting around the edges of an argument and not even willing to firmly say, all right, well, simply I don't accept your premise. Like,
right. And yes, and actually, as a matter of fact, not to rehash this too much, but to me, this is actually the prime example of woke essentialism. You have a lot of people who they are able to wear the mantle of, or they're able to grasp and talk about issues of like, issues affecting them as black people or as women or as, trans or whatever. And then they center their own experiences and their own trauma and victimization within that sphere, as if the other respective parties along them, because like I said, I could talk to other black people and disagree about like, and talk and agree about, like police brutality and, anti-black racism and shit. But then some other black folks might say something homophobic and then all pipe up. And then all of a sudden it went from I'm a brother and I'm down to, oh, you ain't really white or you have dual loyalties, what I'm saying, shit like that. And then the same situation happens here where you have a super woke person whom, they may be genuinely dealing with shit as a marginalized group, but then they're taking that, and when somebody comes up and who isn't as familiar because their life hasn't been conditioned by these same set of experiences and stuff, instead of even approaching people who are acting in good faith, they respond with, fuck you, pay me, and, it's not my obligation to teach you, blah, 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 blah. But you know what the problem with that is?
What?
Well, first of all, is that oftentimes what it shows to me is a lack of ability for that person to genuinely engage with shit. Because they'll be running their mouths off, because you'll see these threads. And people will be talking about, you can't say this because of that, blah, blah, blah. And then somebody will actually start asking real questions like, okay, describe this thing to me. Tell me what the difference between blah, 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 blah. Like really concrete shit, right?
Yeah,
and
they're actually talking about the details of the question.
Details the question, and then they'll completely ignore them, or that's when they bail out and say, "Oh, fuck you, pay me," or "I don't," blah blah. Which of course nobody's going to do.
Are you saying that people on Leftbook sometimes pretend to know more than they know?
Absolutely. Well, maybe
that would come as a surprise to me.
Yeah, right. Wait, what is Leftbook? Is that a thing, or is that just?
Well, it's I don't know. It's like sort of a general term for all of like the left discussion and commentary and shit that exists on Facebook. There were a whole bunch of groups, and then the spiciest ones were gradually deleted and banned.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
I wasn't aware of the term Leftbook.
Yeah. Well, it's a particular to only people from Leftbook use the word Leftbook.
If you know, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
There's right book, there's religious book, there's flat Earth book, even like within left book, there's also like left Jew book as well. There's all of these like politically domains.
Right. Okay. It's just the different domains, like as you said, in Facebook sphere.
Yeah, like the colloquialism for referring to all those groups.
Yeah. But the thing is, the point I was trying to make is that, so while these people may not have a grasp of the actual theory in and of itself, they may not actually be academics, they just, got a head wrap and learn a few hot terms on Twitter and whatever, and they're really fiery online. But they don't actually know that they can't actually describe the nuts and bolts because they don't understand the nuts and bolts themselves.
Yeah.
But what they do understand is how identity can be weaponized and can be used as leverage to give themselves power, playing off of white guilt and playing off the genuine good faith acting of certain other non-black, of just whatever group of people you're trying to convince to be on your side and be allies, because there are quite a few people who are in good faith trying to become good allies. But there's also abuse of that shit happening by these left-wing figures, and I do feel like that we are coming to it. I do think that there is a genuine issue of people who are claiming to want to gain allyship with others, not actually meeting them halfway and just giving empty rhetoric and platitudes, which is the same criticism that they have of liberal identity politics for just valuing tokenism and not real representation.
Yeah, instead of, having read enough of the books to be able to give someone a concrete deconstruction of what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. They haven't read the theory. They haven't read any papers. They haven't gone to any seminars. They haven't even tried. They just got a few of the. They picked up on the theater. They picked up on how they got to dress. They picked up on how they have to talk. They picked up on how they have to tweet and what trigger words they have to use. But as soon as you ask them for any details, it's what it always turns into is that, you're personally attacking me. Why are you questioning me? It's like, no, I'm questioning your ideas, these values that you claim to have in a spouse. But if you don't really understand them, you shouldn't be fucking saying them out loud.
Yeah.
Oh, you're just saying that because I'm a black woman. You're just saying that because I'm trans. I'm saying that because you're a fucking idiot and a bad faith actor and a charlatan. But you're
Joanne Reed.
Yeah, you're Joanne Reed or fucking Don Lemon or any of these fucking goofballs,
Yeah.
But the real problem with this shit is...
Or Jason Johnson.
Or Jason, yeah, oh God. He's super fucking toxic.
Such a dickhead.
But the real problem that this creates, a real fundamental one, is kind of the one that helped Trump get elected. Because motherfuckers were so focused on the moral grandizing and not really giving concrete solutions on how to move things forward that a left-winger, a left-booker will say, I don't have to expend my emotional labor for free, or fuck you, pay me to the screen, or blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But who's giving that shit away for free? Who is welcoming people into their church for free to radicalize, well, not for free in the long run, but they're at least inviting them in at the front end to be like, hey, come in, we'll talk to you. That
would be the problematic Jesus freaks.
It's the Jesus freaks. It's the alt-right. It's the, the religious fundamentalists, the corporate elitists, and the right-wing reactionaries, the alt-right.
All of which conveniently are a Venn diagram.
Exactly, because they learned earlier on than left-wingers that, the only way we're going to have power in this society because we're each minorities is we have to consolidate ourselves. The same way in which whiteness was the consolidating power for white Europeans in America. This is just happening in the cultural war sphere. And so what's happening...
fighting over cultural whiteness.
They're fighting. They're
They're taking all the people who get yelled at on Left Book, and they're like, why did they get yelled at? Because you're white. It's like, that's not really that.
Mm-hmm. Or because you're a man, or because you're Christian, or because, whatever.
Yeah. However you feel persecuted, we will find a way.
Exactly.
To make you the victim.
Yeah, and the thing is that one of the reasons they've been so effective is because, once again, left-wingers and liberals, they talk about how things are fucked up, but a lot of them don't actually know how to fix things, and they don't know how to actually be inviting to others. They don't know how to convey to others that, because here's what I would hear if I was a regular white person who didn't know shit from shit, right? And I happen to run into a right-wing reactionary and a left-wing wokey, right?
Yeah. Oh, wokey. That's a
wokey. I've heard that one thrown around a little bit too.
Yeah.
Here's what I think my breakdown or my understanding would be. The right wing would say, the left wing would say, this system is fucked up. You benefit, and if I'm a white person, right? The left wing would sound like, hey, this system is fucked up, and you benefit directly from this system. You're privileged. And I would be like, well, I'm just actually a lower class white person. I'm kind of struggling in many respects, and but I get that there are other people who are struggling in different ways. No, fuck you. You're white. You're not, you're privileged, blah, 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 blah. That's a lot of what the left sounds like, right? And then, but then it would also be like, hey, you benefit from this system, but it's fucked up. You have to change it. Well, why would I want to change a system that I supposedly could benefit from, and all you other people whom are rallying against the system are treating me this way and not giving me a chance to really, say my piece or talk about my struggles because I'm, white. And then on the other side, you have the right wingers who are saying, hey, they're telling you this system is kind of fucked up, but here's a way in which you could benefit from it. And we're not going to tell you to take down your memes or that you're racist. We're not going to just be jumping down your throat and telling you just because you're white that your life is fine.
Yeah.
If I'm just a regular person who doesn't really have much understanding of this shit and I already don't have the best education and best upbringing, I can tell you 9 times out of 10, I'm probably going to be listening to the right-winger shit more often. You know what I'm saying? Because the thing is,
there's definitely a failure to understand just tactics of propaganda. Like you could say whatever you want about the validity of those critiques.
Obviously, I agree. I would agree more morally, ethically with the left wingers, but be like y'all are not effective at being able to get people on our side and show them why they should even buy into our values and our way of life or looking at the world. Because of how hostile and disingenuous you seem to be acting. Whereas the right-wingers, I don't agree with them damn near on anything morally, ethically, but they are effective at helping their target audience see a way forward in life and a way to live a content life in this world with things as they are. Because ultimately, that is what people are trying to do on either side. They are trying to find a place to belong, a place that is inviting to them, a group of people that is reflective of the values and the things that they care about.
Yep, that's one of the things that the CIA coup manual says about recruiting people for your.
They're right.
If someone's a dick to one of your people, they probably ain't coming back.
Mm-hmm. That's why it's also so funny why they started getting back into torture, because at some point you have to realize that torture is really just a tool it's really just recreation for sadistic people. Because anybody, if you're torturing them and you got fucking clamps on their lips and shit, they'll tell you anything that you want to hear to take that shit off. So you're not going to get consistent, reliable information through that. Because I'm sure like the FBI and the CIA and everything, like they don't just always go in and barge down fucking doors. They seduce people. They tell you, hey, we know you've been treated like this. We know maybe, your life wasn't going well. We'll give you blah, 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 blah. You ever had a beer before? You ever had a good fucking cooked steak? Sirloin, steak or whatever the fuck? You have to seduce people and show them why they could benefit from being on your side. You don't get people on your side just by telling them, oh, don't you want to be on the right side of history?
Yeah.
Does the right side of history come with the full fridge? Does the right side of history come with the network of people whom I can be vulnerable and communicate with and grow with? Does being on the right side of history guarantee me some way of making a living in this fucked up society?